Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune by. Still reaching for more. Going up, up and more. Going up, up.
Higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, one people together.
Welcome to EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses EDDIE-FICATION to help actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through EDDIE-FICATION, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, or chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftop and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces. And only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well. We have quite a tight package here for you today, folks. And I'm sure you will agree it ought to be a tight package indeed. Just the subject matter itself lets you know that we're in for a treat. So welcome to Edification 233. Our subject today invites all of us to take a relook at ourselves very, very deeply to see what are the things we are giving our attention to and what is the size of what ruffles our feathers. After all, our topic, which is taken from the quote, someone's opinion of you does not have to be your reality, is attributed to the foremost U.S. motivational speaker and author, Les Brown. It reflects his message of self-empowerment and the importance of not allowing others' judgment or opinions to define your potential or even your self-worth. This has got to be good today. Trust me, folks. This 8th day of September, already as the year, marches on very fast to Christmas. And of course, immediately after Christmas, we know what happens. The commencement of 2025. Yesterday was 20 years since Hurricane Ivan. Reason for all of us who remembered the trauma that came with it to pray hard for none other to visit us again. Of course, Carriacou had their share this year already. We are in the month where two major climate change disasters wreaked havoc on our people, 50 years apart. All the more why we should be considerate towards the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, who are showing us that they are coping and, of course, are doing what they must to survive, as we did 20 years ago, with evidence of destruction still around for who have eyes to see. Interestingly, folks, we're hearing all sorts of nonsense coming from the gang of thieves, the old crooks that used to be around the seat of power and authority around this joint, talking as though they were flawless when it comes to the handling of Ivan. How many days did it take for the old nastiness to surface after Ivan? Work with me here, folks. Oh, ye of short memory. You see, and that is why that old Satan grandson could take among you and play the fool with all you. Because Satan grandson know all you don't have memory. All you just forget easy. Goodly folks, as soon as you come into the room today, please share, comment, love, and just interact as you usually do. Great to have you again. Let's help this community that we have here, this online live community. Let's just help it to continue to grow and grow from strength to strength. Come on, continue to hit the share button, target people, tag them, whatever you want to do. But let's get people into the room, because today is not a day to miss. Of course, we must start with the interpretation of angel number 233, which symbolizes harmony, balance, and communication. It is a sign from your guardian angels or the higher power that you believe in that you are on the right track towards reaching your goals, prioritize harmonious relationships, work-life balance, and expressing yourself authentically to find success. Folks, the more authentic I marry myself to being is the more I detest hypocrites. And Grenada seems to be a factory for them. Ah, that man bound to say that. That's a hypocrite that making that question. That's a chupidi. Because I am best friend material. Best friend material. You know why? Because I will tell you as it is. Folks, opinions are personal beliefs or judgments that reflect an individual's perspective, and they're often based on feelings, experiences, or interpretations rather than objective facts. You see, in life, everyone encounters criticisms, judgments, and opinions from others. So the people who would make a big deal of how they are viewed in the eyes of others, you see, these external perceptions can shape how they see themselves, especially if these perceptions come from people they admire or trust. However, allowing someone else's opinions of us to dictate our identity and life path can be totally damaging. So we have to watch that. After all, we all should know by now that we live in a mostly hypocritical society where jealousy, envy, and malice are covered up by people we either do not know or we thought we knew well. You see, the statement, someone's opinion of you must never become your reality. That statement emphasizes the importance of self-definition and personal agency. You see, while others are entitled to their views, it is crucial that we take control of our own narrative, our own story, and not allow external judgments to determine our worth or even our potential. From a young age, many people are taught to seek validation from others, parents, teachers, and friends. They offer praise or even criticism, which in turn influences how we perceive ourselves. These external assessments are often internalized, shaping our sense of identity. For example, a child frequently told that they're not good at something may grow up believing this, even if it is not objectively true. Similarly, someone who is consistently complimented may develop a sense of self-worth that is reliant only on external praise. You see, the problem with this dynamic is that it actually gives others too much power over our sense of self. People's opinions are often colored by their own biases, by their own insecurities and limitations. What they say about us may have more to do with their worldview, and of course, where they are in their own personal development, than with who we truly are. If we allow these opinions to define our reality, we may end up limiting ourselves, suppressing our potential, and living in a way that doesn't reflect our true desires or abilities. One of the greatest dangers of allowing someone's opinion of you to become your reality is that it can hinder personal growth. Look at how many people have been stymied because they value other people's opinions of them. When you internalize negative opinions, they can become self-fulfilling prophecies. For instance, if someone tells you that you're not smart enough to succeed in a particular field, and you believe them, you may stop pursuing that goal altogether. This decision is not based on your actual abilities, but on someone else's perception of you. Relying too heavily on others' opinions can lead to a fragile sense of self-worth. You see, when your identity is actually based on external validation, you become vulnerable to fluctuations in how people view you. So you have to be careful. This can create a constant need for approval, leaving you feeling anxious or insecure when others do not offer the validation that you seek. You may find yourself altering your behavior, values, or goals to fit other people's expectations rather than pursuing what truly matters to you. Doesn't that sound like something you do, folks? Any one of you guilty of that, cut it out, because you are actually stymieing your own growth. You're becoming a victim of your lack of self-worth. You see, to avoid the trap of living according to others' opinions, it is essential to develop a strong sense of self. You see, self-definition is the process of deciding who you are, what you value, and what you want from life, independent of the judgments of others. It involves constant introspection, self-awareness, and the courage to reject opinions that do not align with your true self. Developing a strong sense of self, folks, allows you to navigate criticism and praise without even losing your identity. You begin to see opinions for what they are, subjective views that may or may not have bearing on reality. When someone offers a negative opinion, you can assess it rationally, considering whether it contains useful feedback or whether it is simply a reflection of the other person's biases. Similarly, when someone praises you, you can accept the compliment without becoming dependent on their approval for your self-esteem. You see, inner confidence is key to ensuring that others' opinions do not become your reality. This confidence comes from recognizing your own worth, abilities, and potential, independent of external validation. It requires you to trust yourself and believe in your capacity to grow and to succeed, even in the face of criticism. You see, one way to build inner confidence is to focus on your strengths and accomplishments. Instead of dwelling on what others say about you, remind yourself of what you know to be true about your abilities and character. Folks, try and recall where you started. Juxtapose where you started with where you are now, and just all of a sudden start being proud of yourself. Celebrate your successes, however small, and use them as evidence of your potential. In other words, talk to yourself. You ain't seen nothing yet. You see, over time, this practice will help you develop a more stable sense of self-worth that is not easily shaken by others' opinions. Another important aspect of inner confidence is embracing failure and imperfections. You see, people often fear criticism because it feels like a validation of their insecurities. However, no one is perfect and everyone makes mistakes. Accepting this truth can free you from the need to constantly seek approval. When you understand that failure is a natural part of growth, you become less concerned with what others think, more focused on your own development. Folks, there's a spiritual definition for failure. God's way of letting you know you were going in the wrong direction. Isn't that a beautiful definition for failure? When you are pumped by that, folks, joke you're making. Failure is moving from one challenge to another without losing enthusiasm. Just keep moving, folks. You see, while it is important to avoid letting other opinions define you, this does not mean you should ignore all feedback. Constructive criticism can be a valuable tool for growth, but it is crucial to be discerning about whose opinions you allow into your life. I want you to seek advice, feedback from people who have your best interests at heart, those who understand your goals, values, and potential. In fact, those are going to be very few people. You cannot be a person who speaks your mind without malice. When someone else comes to you with that same vibes, you reject them. Oh no. If the track record of the person is to be honest, without malice, consider yourself lucky to be engaged by such person, as there is an element of care in them. We should not allow the opinions of bad-minded losers to freeze us and render us immobilized. We just get to know who is who through their expressed bad-mindedness. Do like me. Remain forever conscious and aware. Take note, file, and move on. At the same time, be wary of individuals who project their insecurities or biases onto you. Some people may criticize you out of jealousy, fear, or their own limitations. Recognizing the difference between helpful feedback and unproductive criticism is essential to maintaining a healthy sense of self, who you are, in other words. When you are selective about whose opinions you consider, you can use feedback as a tool for growth rather than as a measure of your worth. Remember what we define grow as: get rid of weaknesses. GROW. Folks, ultimately, creating your own reality means taking control of your narrative, your own story. It means defining yourself on your own terms, rather than allowing others to do it for you. This involves setting your own goals, pursuing your passions, and staying true to your values, even when others may not understand or support your choices. Just this morning, I was telling someone, and truth be told, I was telling someone, I have more love. The most love I have in my heart is dedicated for what I do here, and what I have been doing for close to 40 years. I tell people I'm the 8th day of the week. None of you do anything about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In the same way, you cannot do anything about Eddie. You see, the 8th day of the week. You see, it means defining yourself on your own terms, rather than allowing others to do it for you. This involves setting your own goals, pursuing your passions, staying true to your values, even when others may not understand or support your choices. How many of you are that focused? When you live according to your own reality, become the true and only author of your life. You gain the freedom to make decisions that align with your true self rather than conforming to others' expectations. This autonomy leads to greater fulfillment as you begin to live a life that reflects your own desires, potential. You see, the statement and affirmation that someone's opinion of you must never become your reality serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of self-definition and inner confidence. While it is natural to encounter others' judgment and criticism, hey, it is essential to remember that these opinions do not define who you are. By developing a strong sense of self and focusing on your own goals and values, you can ensure that your reality is shaped by your own choices rather than by the perceptions of others. In doing so, you gain the freedom to live authentically and fulfill your purpose in life, free from the constraints of external validation. People will see you from where they stand. Where they stand is a reflection of where they came from. If they are uneducated and unwise, they will bring that to bear on the narrative they conjure up about you. That is where projection comes from. Remember, you can only get the juice a lemon has in it when you squeeze it. You just have to continue to do you, as long as it is not hurting others and offending any laws of the land. Someone's opinion of you must never become your reality. Let's take our first break and we'll come back because we have some other stuff that we must share, must discuss, because I tell you, things looking sweet, so to speak. So let's take a little break here and we'll come right back with more. Let's get a little break.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, up, and more. Going up, going up, going up, 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 up.
As we aspire, build up ourselves, one people together. Bang, 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 slowly up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks, wonderful. We as I'm preparing to do this live today, the usual edification, news keep coming in that the House of Cards seem to be tearing apart for whatever reason. But whichever scenario you want to put to the House of Cards falling apart, none is good for them. You see, folks, karma, just to use the local colloquial term, karma is a bitch. And it is so interesting. You're studying to come out here to distract people with all kind of nonsense, telling the people in Karaku, well, they have money and the money is to build back all your house. Rubbish, total garbage. Infantile, puerile rubbish. You remember the style of the campaign during the election? Cake and ice cream. Where did he day? No message. And that continues. But it has gone now to the bottom of the pit. Right down to the bottom of the pit. Digging the ground, going down to hell now. And it is so sad. So while they're out there doing all this stupidness, all this mischief, inside of them falling down, mashing up, they themselves can't find talent, so they have to dig the dustbin. People who were relegated as garbage, used, abused, and discarded are now being reeled in to come back in this enlightened era where young people are seeing hope. These old farts digging the dustbin for old discarded talent. Isn't that something? Yes, Tubbs, Woodans take over the House of Cards. It's sad, sad. But there's a lot to come. A lot to come. Folks, get your popcorn and your soda, because there's a lot more to come. You see, I have been well positioned since a little boy. And you know, I owe all of that to my mother, who imparted a lot of respect. You see, these people were not lettered. They were not academically able, but they were bright. These people were bright. And what do I mean by that? Simply put, they were full of wisdom. Mother said to us when we were growing up, the more you say thanks is the more God gives you to be thankful for. The more respectful you are is the more you will stand out. And you will become magnetic. People will want to come to you. You will draw people to you. And folks, I remember a gentleman, that story is for another time, but I'll just give you a précis of it, that I met when I was 7 years old. God rest his soul today. He's dead and gone. But I became a very, very close friend of that man. Very, very close. And what caused that? The introduction, you know, at the age of 7, respect. Respect. Put your head around that, folks. And you'd realize how important respect is. But I introduced that man to the old nastiness. Oh yes. One of 4 influential people in this country, I, Eddie Frederick, introduced to Satan grandson before I knew that Satan was his grandfather. You get a message? So folks, I know a lot. And Satan grandson, no, I know a lot. So I can afford to speak with gusto when I speak here. Simple. I can afford to speak with confidence. Theo, sweetheart, don't cry. Laugh till you cry, but don't just cry alone. But we're going to start with the second segment now. I start with a letter that I received, man. And if among you know who this letter is from, I am not at liberty to share, not that the person cares, but I just withhold the person's identity. Dear Mr. Eddie Frederick, I hope this letter finds you well. I have been an ardent listener of yours for many years, from your days on the radio to now following you on social media. It's amazing how much has changed in the world since then. But one thing has remained constant for me: your voice, your wisdom, and your consistency have been a source of enlightenment, comfort, and guidance throughout the years. I am glad that you found your vintage self at a time when forceful pushback of the evil forces around us is of absolute necessity. I still vividly remember tuning to your radio broadcasts, drawn in by your thought-provoking commentaries, candidness, and unwavering authenticity. You didn't just speak to your audience, you connected with them. It often felt like you were speaking directly to me, addressing things I hadn't fully processed, or giving a voice to the thoughts I struggled to articulate. Your reward will be like a tree, which can only be measured while laying down, especially as it is more fashionable to be fake these days, something you bluntly refuse to become. As the world shifted and you transitioned to sharing your wisdom through social media, I am grateful to see that your platform continued to evolve while still staying true to what made you such an impactful presence on the airwaves. The way you break down complex topics, offer unique perspectives, and challenge people to think deeply is a gift you've continued to share, and I can thank you enough for it. You've been a source of guidance in ways you may never fully understand. Your reflections on personal growth, self-awareness, and even on the larger societal issues that we face, have helped me navigate some of the most challenging moments in my life. Your words have encouraged me to look inward, challenge my own beliefs, and grow in ways I didn't think were possible. I have learned how to be more mindful, more compassionate, and how to engage with the world in a more meaningful way, regardless of the reactions of others, all because of the lessons I have drawn from your sharings. I really admire your undaunting nature, which angers so many fakes among us. You've managed to create a space where your audience feels seen, heard, and understood, no matter the medium. You inspire us to become brave within ourselves. Wow. Your life is a true sacrificial gift to us, more than we will ever know. You've inspired countless people to think more critically, to be more intentional in their actions, and to seek out the best versions of themselves. Thank you for your unwavering dedication, for the wisdom you impart so generously, and for the impact you've made on my life, even from a distance. Your words have stayed with me through tough times, through times of growth, and have been a source of strength in moments when I needed them most. The consistency of your daily meditations and thoughts on social me and so many others. Though you may never fully realize just how much you've impacted my journey and the journey of so many more, please know that your influence has been far-reaching and deeply felt. With profound gratitude and respect. Name withheld, a loyal listener since way back when. Folks, all I can say in return is thank you and wow. Nobody can tell how much emotion this note has evoked, especially as coming from a highly favored citizen of Grenada who traveled the world, conquered, and now returned to live among us. This is precisely why I want to dovetail this with what's to follow and explain the concept of self-emasculation, which so many Grenadians are effortlessly involved in. Too many Grenadians have volunteered themselves to failure. We see too many people who do not know that life moves in waves and that we must all know when each wave is over and the other begins. Only self-consciousness rather, would lead us in this regard. Now, how could you not know when it is time to dress differently because of how you dress now would not obtain for how you look now? That's elementary. We go through stages, and even when we take up certain positions in our society, we have to become appropriate. So that we teach all who are watching on how to fit into the groove. Age changes us in many ways, and when we make the necessary adjustments, we will never go wrong. Traditionally, emasculation refers to the loss of power, strength, or even masculinity. In this context, self-emasculation involves a voluntary or internalized action where one diminishes their own sense of power, autonomy, or identity, often for the sake of conforming to external pressures, societal norms, or personal insecurities. For instance, self-emasculation reflects a deeper internal conflict rooted in societal expectations, fear, or self-doubt. When you are status-oriented, that is a form of self-emasculation, because in your head, you're actually thinking you are not worth anything without a position. You are not worth anything without power. And the old nastiness is just like that. Satan grandson, tropical Trump, very much like that. You see, emasculation has traditionally been understood in terms of gender roles, power, and societal structures. Society has often tied masculinity to strength, authority, and dominance. Characters in literature might suppress their desires or ambition to conform to societal expectations. I don't know if you've ever read The Death of a Salesman. Then you would know the character Willie Loman. Willie Loman is a complex character who represents a flawed pursuit of the American dream. He experiences a deep sense of disappointment in both his professional and personal life, which leads to his eventual downfall. His relationship with his family, especially his two sons, Biff and Happy, is central to the story. Folks, go and find it. Death of a Salesman. And you'll see Willie Loman's plight in that entire story. You see, too many of us internalize societal expectations, putting ourselves under tremendous pressures, and engage in self-emasculation by suppressing emotions, desires, and even personal ambitions to fit into predefined roles. Fear of being perceived as vulnerable, weak, or even unmanly can drive self-emasculation. We have a lot of men who feel that for you to be termed a man, all your heel of your feet must be cracked up. You must look like you're on a cement truck. You must look coarse, crass, and you must give off not just masculinity but toxicity. You must look like you start to rot before you're dead, and that is a man. Or you better move it with that way, because I don't want to be that kind of man. I want to take care of myself, the only self I have, and I will take care of myself by going to the masseuse. I will take care of myself by getting my emery stone, and as often, maybe 3 times a week, scrubbing below my feet, around my heel, making sure I am well presented when I leave my home to go out. You get the message? When people see me, they say, wow, Eddie, you look so good. I say, you think it's easy? I know easy. No. It's a lot of work to look so, you know, because it is called maintenance. And the only self I have are taking care of it. You see, insecurity and low self-esteem, you know, it must be highlighted here. How self-emasculation can stem from deep-seated insecurities, with people not having any idea of their own value, often leading them to limit their potential. You see, self-emasculation is often influenced by traditional gender roles. Many men may feel compelled to adhere to toxic masculinity, while women may self-emasculate by diminishing their strengths to fit societal expectations of femininity. Thank God our women are learning to change that nonsense today. Look around the landscape and you'll see who drive the best vehicles in town. Females. Who have the leading jobs? Females. Where the men holding up their scotch with one hand and a carib in the next, or a stag. And you know what is unfortunate? Those lovely females going and find them kind of man. Modern shifts, folks, relate to how contemporary movements like feminism, gender equality, and even the alphabet, you know what I mean by that? LGBTQ+ rights are challenging the norms that lead to self-emasculation, encouraging more authentic expressions of identity. According to the man that is running, the running mate of Kamala Harris, people just need to learn to mind their goddamn business. You see, consequences of self-emasculation can surely lead to feelings of frustration, depression, or even unfulfillment. People who self-emasculate may experience internal conflict or regret for not living authentically after all. Self-emasculation impacts relationships where individuals might suppress their needs or desires, leading to imbalances or resentment. You see, societal implications beg us to consider how widespread self-emasculation contributes to systemic issues, such as the reinforcement of harmful gender stereotypes and social inequalities. How do we overcome self-emasculation? We need to do our own research and propose strategies for overcoming self-emasculation, folks, such as fostering self-awareness, developing a strong sense of identity, and challenging internalized stereotypes. But we can't do that if we don't mind our goddamn business. Everybody always knows something about somebody else. And while they ignore themselves, that same goddamn thing is happening to them. They're guilty of what they're minding somebody else's business doing. You see, take the mole from your own eye before you try to take it from somebody else's. You see, empowerment suggests that we seek out ways in which self-emasculated individuals can reclaim their power, live authentically, and reject societal pressures that encourage self-sabotage and thus eventual emasculation. You see, in concluding this particular stanza here, this area of self-emasculation, anyone who is guilty of it, and we know a lot of Grenadians are guilty of self-sabotage, you need to reflect on the importance of challenging this high degree of self-doubt in pursuit of personal authenticity and overall societal progress. If we have a nation that is made up of so many self-doubters, so many self-saboteurs, how could we collectively progress? We can't. You see, a great piece of evidence supportive of the widespread self-emasculation is how easily so many of us volunteer to become absorbed by wrongdoers in our politics, just to appear to be advancing in life, because we now know the price of everything and the value of nothing, because the old nastiness, that was his philosophy. That was the philosophy that drove his leadership. Come, let me dangle something in front of you. You want this? Well, you have to support. You have to be loyal to me, you know. What a pity it's only a few of us that never subjected ourselves to that kind of nonsense. You see, such people give life to the piece of scripture that explains it, that it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter God's kingdom. I trust that this brief exploration of the concept of self-emasculation, self-sabotage, points you in the direction of examining this issue that has the potential to stymie your future and the very life from various cultural, psychological, and societal perspectives. Because someone's opinion of you must never become your reality. Failure to understand and appreciate the need to develop and cultivate a spirit of certainty through powerful self-knowledge, self-awareness that is, will certainly lead you to self-destruction. Let's take a little break and we come back with more. We have a lot more where that came from.
Deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Hurricane season is now upon us. So we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safe and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftop and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Going up,
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. You know, the point I made there just now relative to people and not minding their business. You have a lot of people who buy their $3,000 and $4,000 costume. Oh man, they put on their floss and they're all through the street enjoying themselves. Good. And when they finish, they want to be on call-in program on radio to ask government with the school book program looking for help for their children. People like that shouldn't get no help. There should be a department in the government service to go through all videos of every band. And when you see them and you can associate them with spending good money to play mass and they come begging, tell them you don't have. Or pass a law to arrest them for not having order in their life. Arrest them because they're distressing their children. We have to get real in this country. This old nonsense. Good, and they talking, you know, that could have never happened if the other government was there. You see, enablers. Who calls among your priority plate to mash up? That same old dirtiness. That same old nastiness. Tropical Trump. Isn't that interesting? Anyhow, we forget he for now. Welcome back, folks. Come on, share the live for those of you just joining. Thank you. Wonderful. You know what riles up a lot of people? A lot of them, because they weren't paying attention, they thought the old nastiness was what you call accomplished. He's done so much for Grenada, so much for himself. And interestingly, how that man could be calling him the old nastiness? He had no respect. You cannot respect disrespect. You see, among you who are not paying attention. That is why you will waste your respect on the old nastiness. But the old nastiness must get his due. He do good, and he has not been good long. I've been paying attention long, so I know. And that's what is rile among you up, you know. You can't contest that. Incontrovertible. And I'm saying it with conviction because I am totally convinced. It is my knowledge that he do good. It's not a perception. It is my knowledge that he do good. And he ain't good long. So his real names, old nastiness, Tropical Trump, and Satan grandson, and I'm still looking for more. Okay, I ain't done yet. You see, the phrase people meet your energy long before they meet you means that others often perceive your presence, mood, and attitude before they fully engage with you in conversation or get to know you personally. You see, this energy refers to the non-verbal cues that you project, such as body language, confidence, tone, and overall vibe, which can create a strong impression even before formal interaction. Goodly folks, please remember this. We are first spirits having a human experience. It is not the other way around. If we really continue to function as if it were the other way around, we will prove each time that we have truly lost our way. We ought to vibrate at a much higher frequency when it comes to the energy we give off. And the only reason why we are not seeing the desired progress in our very lives, it is because we have usurped the power and authority of the Spirit. If someone exudes positivity and confidence, others are likely to pick up on the energy and feel drawn to them, even if no words have been exchanged. On the other hand, if someone projects nervousness, negativity, or hostility, it can influence how others perceive or respond to them, sometimes leading to avoidance, pity, or even caution. In essence, though, this phrase highlights the importance of self-awareness and the effect our internal state has on our outward interactions. It suggests that your presence and energy can impact others' perceptions of you well before you speak or introduce yourself. How come you know when you see somebody you never spoke to them yet, my spirit and give with him now, my spirit and give with her now? Because that is not an empty statement, folks. It's a disconnect from the time you see the person. The vibes, the frequency, and the energy emitted from that person didn't meet in accord with yours. Look around you. And you can help describe loads of reasons why sensible people are not drawn to the personalities steeped in mawet, destruction, and just downright nastiness around us. The Holy Spirits attract that correct response from the sensible and acts as a magnet for their kind. Haven't you noticed the National Nasty Party attracts a certain phenotype? You could be walking down the road and you just watch somebody and you just say, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You go to a workplace and just by virtue of how you are treated in that workplace, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is not to say that the loads of green mentality who vote for yellow don't give you that same vibe, eh? You ain't getting off the hook just so. Because it is a phenotype. And it is sad. You see, when you are lacking in this knowledge, and therefore are wanting in the construct of how you function generally, you will be wont to mix up friends and enemies in these modern times because you do not operate at requisite spiritual level. Since too many of you are blinded by religion, where the only beneficiary really is the pastor and his immediate family. Let's take a look at blurred lines between friends and enemies. A modern world which would surely indicate why we ought not mix them up for fear that we do so at our peril. You see, in today's world, it has become increasingly difficult to differentiate between friends and enemy. Now, isn't that something? The reasons for this are multifaceted, involving complex social, political, and technological changes that have altered how we perceive loyalty, hostility, and trust. Unlike in the past, when clear lines were drawn based on nationality, ethnicity, or even ideology, or even political affiliation, contemporary society has witnessed a profound shift in these distinctions. This sharing here today will explore three major factors contributing to this phenomenon. Folks, this thing is very serious. The erosion of clear social boundaries, the role of technology in complicating interpersonal relationships, and of course the fluid nature of modern identities and alliances. Let's first look at the erosion of clear social boundaries. Historically, distinguishing between friend and foe was often straightforward. People's allegiances were tied to family, community, religion, or nation. These affiliations provided a sense of identity, which made it easier to identify those who were with us and those who were against us. However, in today's increasingly globalized world, these once clear boundaries have dissolved. People interact with others from different cultural, social, and political backgrounds more frequently than ever before, especially in some of our more populated urban settings and through online communities. People were never as consequentially divided as they are today, allowing this necessary societal activity of politics to divide families, relatives, and even friends. The acceleration of this was observed during the period 1995 to 2022 for the most part, and continuing. Ouch. You see, to a great extent, the venom many feel for others of opposing political views is astonishing, as carefully engineered and enabled by politicians, especially of one brigade over the other. The pushback from the side considering to be aptly described as underdogs to another can be smelled from miles, while the antagonists in the main swing from lie to energize their base and keep up the consistency with which their vote farm, the followers, are fed the same style of lies for all of 40 years, even into this supposedly enlightened era, rendering them what? Totally backward as a swath of our population. You see, the diversity of viewpoints and the intermingling of different groups of people in our midst have made it harder to define who belongs to one's in-group, who belongs to the out-group. Traditional markers of identity like race, nationality, or even political ideology are no longer reliable indicators of a person's intentions or allegiances. Individuals today often hold hybrid identities, blending values and beliefs from multiple cultures and experiences. This can lead to misunderstandings and conflicts, as people may struggle to understand whether someone with different perspectives is a potential friend or foe. I am sure many of you tuned in have had the experience of some mindlessness coming from people whom you had a different view from. You had this different view of them years ago, with whom you thought you had a great relationship. Experiences like those, which are becoming more and more regular in occurrences, are actually indicators of the blurred lines between friend and enemy today. You see, the increasing polarization in many societies exacerbates this problem, make it worse. People are encouraged to pick sides on a range of issues, political, social, or even personal. This dynamic leads to a situation in which someone who disagrees on one topic may be viewed as an enemy, even if they align on many others. You see, the result is a fragmented sense of community, where friends and enemies are constantly redefined based on shifting allegiances. You see, because of the deterioration of our civilization here in Grenada, presided over by leaders in all spheres of our small once-together society, enabled by so many of us through our nonchalance, negligence, and in many cases, refusal to pay attention, we have reached an all-time low in seemingly operating as if things are normal in this atmosphere of blurred lines between friend and enemy. You see, this affects us as a people in many ways, as it has been resulting in a high level of operational hypocrisy, which many of us seem to feel is okay to incorporate in our new normal. That could never be right. I can repeat a story that the late Alimenta Bishop, mother of the late Prime Minister Maurice Bishop, shared with me on one of my several but meaningful visits with her over the years. Her husband, the late Rupert Bishop, got very close to Eric Gary, the late, of course, back in their days in Aruba on one of the oil fields where they worked together. She, having come from the La Grenade family, aunt of our now glowing Governor General Dame Cecile La Grenade, was always a GNP, a supporter of the GNP persuasion. You see, back then, GNP was the Dr. John Watts founded, Herbert Blair's led, mostly opposition party in Grenada. You notice what I said? Mostly opposition party. It looked like they were a professional opposition party. But as she said, Eric was one of Rupert's closest friends. He would come and visit Rupert, and she would serve him drinks. He would join them for the occasional lunch or even supper. Her political disconnect had nothing to do with her wanting him in their home or not wanting him in their home, and spouting venom at him because she did not support him. Oh no. As she said, Eric was her husband's friend, and when he visited, she treated him as such with utmost respect. Folks, in the main, that is not to be in these times here so now. What a pity. And in truth and in fact, both sets of supporters have become so strident that one can't trust the other, and vice versa, because of the influence of our inferiorly socialized elements who pose as our politicians in the main, whom our people take their cue from. What a travesty. What about the role of technology in complicating relationships? You see, technology has played a significant role in blurring the lines between friends and enemies. Look, Facebook call people that just meet. You don't even know them. You never see them in your life. Facebook call them friends. And a lot of people take that seriously, you know. They think because we are connected on Facebook, we're friends, you know. Social media platforms, messaging apps, and digital communication tools have dramatically changed how we interact with one another. On the other hand, technology has made it easier to form connections across distances and to maintain relationships with people who might have been out of reach before. You see, on the other hand, it has also introduced new challenges when it comes to trust, loyalty, and understanding. One key issue is the lack of personal context in digital communication. You see, face-to-face interactions provide subtle cues like tone of voice, body language, facial expressions that help us to gauge a person's intentions. In the online world, however, these cues are totally absent. This makes it easier for misunderstandings to occur, as people can misinterpret sarcasms, jokes, or genuine disagreement as personal attacks, which they often do. And we see a lot of blowing up taking place because of it. As a result, relationships that could have remained friendly in the real world can quickly turn hostile online. Preface that with a lack of values which our modern adults don't have for themselves, and therefore cannot share and teach their children and otherwise younger ones growing up. They surely will be easy targets of the low caste of bad-minded individuals they tend to gravitate to in order to throw their undying support behind, whether in politics or otherwise. But in politics, we know, you see the large swath of people that throw their support behind the old nastiness, and they're going down hard with him. He going in hell, karma absorbing him, and they prepare to go with him too. Moreover, social media has created echo chambers where people only engage with ideas and opinions that reinforce their own beliefs. We see them and hear them every day, ranting and raving in response to the smallest thing uttered, which some of them claim fall in their pot and refuse to scroll past. This has been leading to a sense of mistrust and suspicion towards anyone who holds differing views. Now, a person who disagrees on one post or topic can quickly be labeled as an enemy, even if they might agree on many others. Algorithms designed to maximize engagement often exacerbate these divisions by promoting conflict, further eroding the ability to tell genuine friends from those perceived as enemies. What about the fluid nature of modern identities and alliances? In the modern world, identities and alliances are increasingly fluid, which makes it difficult to distinguish friends from enemies. You see, people often hold multiple roles and belong to various overlapping communities: professional, social, familial, and political. Just give me 1 minute. Good. Now, as a result, someone who is a friend in one context may be an adversary in another. This fluidity reflects the reality that human relationships are complex and cannot be reduced to simple binaries of friend or enemy. You see, truly educated people of our not too distant past, by that I mean well socialized people, balanced and mature, were able to function across all communities guided by their personal integrity. But since integrity is in a book, hidden in a drawer in a dark room, which is locked and the key is lost, we know what obtains today. Today it is not wise to be associated with anyone who fraternizes with your enemies, because through them is how your enemies most times get to know your goddamn business. The rise of global movements and transnational ideologies further complicated allegiances. In the past, people often identified with a particular nation, religion, or even political ideology, and this largely dictated their friendships and rivalries. Today, however, people are more likely to be influenced by global issues such as climate change, human rights, or economic inequality. These issues transcend borders and traditional categories, creating new alliances that are less about shared identity and more about shared values or causes. For example, environmental activists from different countries may find common ground in their commitment to combating climate change, while being at odds with their own national governments or even with people in their immediate communities. You see, similarly, advocates for social justice may form global networks of solidarity while facing opposition from people who share their cultural and national background, but not their values. You see, this makes it increasingly difficult to predict who will be a friend or an enemy based on conventional markers. Folks, the modern world has actually blurred the lines between friends and enemies in ways that were unimaginable in previous generations. You see, the erosion of clear social boundaries, the rise of digital communication, fluid nature of identities and alliances, they have all contributed to an environment in which trust and loyalty are no longer easily discernible. As people continue to navigate this complex landscape, it is more important than ever to approach relationships with distinction and an open mind, recognizing that traditional definitions of friend and foe may no longer apply. You see, understanding this dynamic is essential to fostering a more compassionate, empathetic, and cooperative society by organizing the factors that contribute to the confusion between friends and enemies. Individuals and communities can work to build stronger, more resilient relationships that transcend the divisions of the modern world. You see, if this is not possible for you, my advice is to follow my example. Cut out the complications by withdrawing, and therefore qualify to treat everyone with cordiality and respect. They don't have to be your friend for you to wonder if they are really an enemy. Someone's opinion of you must never become your reality. Failure to understand and appreciate the need to develop and cultivate a spirit of certainty through powerful self-knowledge, self-awareness that is, will certainly lead you to self-destruction. Let's take our last break and we'll come back with more. The last segment, that is.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Oh, iron in this sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 and more. Going up, going up, going up, 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 up.
As we aspire, build up ourselves, one people together. Bang, 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 slowly up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wunderbar, wunderbar. Let me see what this is here. I remember this. Let me give you a little light-hearted moment, folks.
And other persons. I was not meant and others personally, and he was in effect, and we spoke. Should say some workers.
Y'all can make that out, folks? Y'all can make out what was said there?
And other persons. I was not meant and others personally, and he was in effect, and we spoke. Should say some workers.
You all remember that? You could make out anything there, folks? Now, when you could take a big like that, make Papi Show and Mawet, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Where we going? Folks, we ain't going nowhere. Anyhow, this is our last segment here. Thanks to those of you who, whether you're late or not, you are here, and that's what's important. You are here, and thank you for being here. We're happy to have you. Now, our final segment. You see, just late last week, I shared a DBS News World news item out of St. Lucia on my daily Caribbean Perspective regional news podcast, where a parish priest took a turn in parishioners' tales, not sparing politicians for their unbecoming behavior and conduct, which is mainly responsible for the way our people behave. I want for you to take a listen and tell me if this does not sound like our environment here too. Listen to this.
Local politicians are being challenged to lead by example. Father Albert Smith, parish priest of the Good Shepherd Roman Catholic Church in Bourbonneau, has expressed concern about the growing trend of personal attacks among politicians and their supporters from the two main political factions, calling for an end to such behavior. The appeal follows a similar calls from the Prime Minister and the Tourism Minister. Zane Romulus of the DBS News World reports.
people are going to represent us in public.
During his homily last Sunday, Father Al Smith, the parish priest in Babonneau, expressed his deep concern about the prevalence of personal attacks, particularly among politicians.
The people who bring themselves in front for politics, they say they are Christians, you know, and some of them, they say they are Catholics. True religion demands that you do not tarnish each other's reputation. And it goes for some of you sitting here this morning, because some of you sitting here this morning have nothing good to say about each other here. Some of you have nothing good to say about each other right here in this parish. Some of you have nothing good to say about me, family.
Roman Catholic priest emphasized that this conduct is unbecoming, especially for those who hold leadership positions in the country.
Too often we hear politicians saying all kinds of things about each other. But politicians, I need you to remember that you are leaders and our young people are looking up to you, and you claim you are Christians. Some of you go to the Catholic Church, some of you go to the Adventist Church, some of you go to the Evangelical Church. Let us be Christians above everything else before we destroy each other's reputation.
He urged the political leaders to set a better example and conduct themselves in a manner that reflects the dignity of their offices and positions.
If people are going to represent us in public office, we need to demand better behavior from them. We need to ask them to lead us, not to hell, but to Jesus Christ.
Yes.
We need to. And we who are Christians saying amen this morning, we too must do the same thing. We must do the same thing. It's not for one and not for the other, including priests, bishops, religious sisters and brothers, all of us. We must lead by example. But the politicians, they are in the media 24/7 and they need to do better.
Last week, both Prime Minister Philippe Juppé as well as Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Ernest Hilaire drew attention to the pervasive bitter language and hostility on social media. Both government leaders have called for an end to the ongoing mudslinging and appealed for a more constructive and respectful discourse, focusing on addressing the nation's important issues. For the TBS News World, I am Zaid Romulus.
And when they are actually given an opportunity to clarify something, to speak professionally, hear how they could speak on something professional.
And other persons went and others and in effect and we spoke. Should say some workers.
When they had to cuss and get on with mawet, they know how to call people bulaman and all kind of. I tell you that nastiness ain't good, and he ain't good long. But sitting right up in front in the church every time you go funeral or even service. That's why a lot of people don't go to church anymore, because the devil is in session. The devil grandson is in session. It's sad, sad. So there you have it from that Catholic priest in St. Lucia. The current opposition leader here in Grenada, together with his other 4 members of his factionalized National Nasty Party, continue to spout lies, misinformation, mudslinging, gutter sniping, polluting the entire peaceful atmosphere with rubbish in an effort to drown out the focus and attention of our people on all the positive developments taking place in and around the Tri-Island state, just to get back into office. Arranging with enemies. You just look at all of them and you can see they don't like one another. But trying to keep up appearances. You all remember that sitcom out of England, Keeping Up Appearances? Keeping up appearances as if they're united. And when they're finished sitting down around the table, they're going to, don't worry, that's just for that's photo optics. That's for photo optics. We have to present but this one, joke you're making, over my dead body. He will never be the leader of that party as long as I'm alive. You get the message? That's all going on there. Come, folks. You see, the behavior is ratcheting up the ire of the entitled and dependent cult members who continue to run the said lies as if they were truths, even in the face of facts, which many of them are practically beneficiaries of, but still insist on demonstrating how far absorbed they are by their cult leader. Folks, that cannot end well for Grenada and integrally for her people. My question, where are the many local so-called religious leaders to lead the vanguard of opposition and rejection to this public display of ragamuffin behavior by such debased leaders who insist on appealing to the baser instincts of so many of our Grenadian people? Where is Bishop Clive Harvey, who has continued to prove to be a major disappointment to the Roman Catholic flock? Where are the Pentecostal, Seventh-day Adventists, and other evangelical religious leaders to collectively or individually register their disgust for these daily low-down displays by the old nastiness and his crew? Are they still to be perceived to be in his pocket, even while he's out, gone, never to come back? That bastion of society, the church, is nothing but a goddamn failure in its terms of reference as supposed moral guardians of our society. And that must constitute why it has become so unappetizing to the younger generation throughout this tri-island state. Folks, you see how frankly I come across? You see how frankly I come across? I don't give a damn because it's the truth. You are to understand and appreciate that nothing I share could be successfully contradicted, and hence that fuels the disgust the intellectually challenged among us has for me. What does that say? They direct their hate for me when it is really because they are ashamed that they cannot bore any holes in what I say. They only hate the fact that it is me saying it. I have been in this business of publicly sharing my frankness for too long to care of the opinions of others. If anyone wants to walk around with a hole in their soul for who I am and what I say, be my guest. You see, when we put in the mix the way elements in our supposedly modern society who pose as politicians behave while seeking to be relevant and looking to the nation to re-engage them and place them back in office, you wonder how can these blurred lines between enemy and friend, how could that ever be cleared up among us? Look at how the National Nasty Party, the NNP, functions on one hand, as against their missing in action targets who don't seem to understand and appreciate that the modus operandi of the National Nasty Party antagonists is appetizing the bouncing low level of a large swath of our people, whose love for the gutter make it easy for them to descend into the abyss of hell, which requires no effort at all. You see, our laziness as a people supports this easy attraction to anything that does not require thinking, as many of our people are even too lazy to think for themselves. I remember years ago a medical professor who's actually retired now after being part of the original cohort of SGU operatives told me, Grenada is a lovely place. The people are lovely, but much too laid back. In fact, he said, he believes that if breathing were not automatic, a lot of Grenadians would have stifled and died because they seem even lazy to breathe. Somebody would have to remind them to breathe. Let that sink in, folks. That was said about our people almost 40 years ago. And of course, it has evolved into the worst version today because of the disconnect of our people from the real substance of life. A lot of our people don't even have purpose. They are not connected to any purpose. They're just going through life, ambling through. Look at how many young people are behaving today. Happy to sit back, make no effort to prepare themselves to cultivate a meaningful future, but are contented to tell you there is no work. Isn't that interesting? Happy, that's a road march, and there's no work. Many of them are content to take all the time in the world to see a 60 or 70-year-old sitting outside in the morning chilling and join him to do the same, ignoring the fact that this man already paid his dues and is now enjoying his retirement by chilling. He's qualified. You see the energy this young man is prepared to give to finding excuses and fueling his discontentment with life while begging for money to feed his habit to smoke or to drink, purchase top-up for data and minutes on his ultra-modern cell phone to be able to view nonsense activities that bring no desirable returns to him. If only they would be programmed, to give that energy to the solution quadrant of their lives, things would work out quite better for them. If any young man stretches himself, trust me, he would not die. Give him that news for me. Our young people need to find the will to open a way for them to disassociate themselves from every spirit of laziness forever. It does not matter from whence it came and how long it has been around or with them. Our collective concern as a nation ought to be on our youthful population who fall into the category of sitting and saying constantly that there is nothing to do. We have to change that language. We have to change that chorus. If you don't have a job, go out and seek counsel as to how to apply, how to construct a resume or a CV. At least invest your unoccupied days properly in preparation. It is better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and be prepared. You see, you have to set targets, folks, for securing a job, but do not stop until you secure the desired outcome. I remember our mother telling us when we were growing up, any number left of 0, as long as it's not another 0, is more than 0, and therefore should be better than nothing at all, for it is a good place to start. Allocate time for solving your problem and making yourself a life of purpose. You see the low-down campaign of the official parliamentary opposition, spewing lies after lies after lies, misinformation deliberately aimed at misleading residents of our sister isles about the purpose of VC $118 million is unfortunate at best and deceitful at worst. And it's the worst form of utterance any group who wants to be taken seriously should ever be peddling at this time. It reeks of envy and jealousy, and of course malice for the new administration, whose transformation agenda is based on structure and order, which cannot be said for the National Nasty Party when they had 23 years in office, and could only be the intention to derail its plans, this new administration's plans, to secure for the people of Carriacou their rightful place as a climate resilient benchmark for the region. Why would any group of people in any responsible position as the opposition, the official opposition, behave in this manner? The simple answer is they can get away with it because not enough members of the Grenadian public willing to hold them responsible. The other answer is they probably know that they could have done money based on their subculture nature and regret that they are not there to manhandle the funds. There's several people among us who continue to not pay attention. You want to have a problem with the following terms correctly attributed to the old nastiness, Satan's grandson, and tropical Trump. It's a good thing to operate on my conviction And I know those terms are most suitable. A thief is a thief is a thief. And if somebody is a thief, that's all you could describe them as. It is the same as the old nastiness, Satan grandson, and tropical Trump. You can't tell me how to see that old nastiness. When you don't pay attention, you end up elevating thieves in statuses that they don't belong to. I'm too sensible for that. As I close, this is very, very pointed here now, folks. This one ain't making no joke now. It's an indication of things to come as we go forward. As I close here today, I would like to sound a warning to all who have mortgages, rent, whatever you want to call it, and other living expenses that they could not meet prior to the last elections, and who became gainfully employed at satisfactory levels under this administration, one or two of who lack capacity for anything, but really needed a pullout before going totally under towards extinction in disgrace, and the vast majority of whom possess some capacity, who all of a sudden extricated themselves from mainstream politics because they're a manager now. Listen to me carefully. If you continue to exclude yourselves from any of the many opportunities to defend the administration that saved you from the brink, that has you eating well today again, you need to be reminded that you will be the loser in the end. The majority, if not all of the people you see out there being vocal in consistent defense of the Deacon Mitchell administration, have attained a measure of independence and will not eat the bread the devil need should things change. Stop assuming the sole role of a manager as if you have arrived today, ignoring your responsibility to defend your administration for fear that the bank comes calling on you after the elections should you resume your prior broke and desperate positions in the unemployed quadrant of life. A word to the wise is more than sufficient. You see, 26 months have already gone in the 60-month term of the sitting NDC administration. We all saw what happened to the so-called bright boys who formed whatever club they formed, an ambassadorial club, whatever club, you know, because they were head honchos, man, around the 2008 to 2013 period. Learn from their various experiences. At the rate you all are going, pretending to be aloof, as if you reach where you're going, you are bound to self-destruct and get what you rightfully deserve, bringing the entire nation back. The mere fact that I have come out here and mentioning this should indicate to you that you are known. People know who you are. And the right people are looking at your conduct. Your current omissions have the potential to contribute to you returning to your once desperate situations. I would be sure to add you on the list of several failed so-called leaders who should be brought in a popular square and flogged publicly on a regular basis for actively helping to squander such a wonderful opportunity that the 23rd of June 2022 presented to all of this nation. Stop the mindlessness. Even some of you elected MPs and otherwise constituency leads, step it up. The National Nasty Party is in disarray. Now is the time to put your elbow to the grease, boots on the ground, and get among you backsides together. I drop it as if it's hot each time because someone's opinion of me will never become my reality, and somebody's got to do it, and I chose to be the one. And is that when I see how many of you operate, I am glad that I am and will always continue to be a Garyite who supports my friend and brother, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, to the max. Someone's opinion of you must never become your reality. I'm in, I'm out, I'm gone. Thanks for joining. Continue to share. See you next week at the same time, same place for more extraordinary programming. Until then, stay safe, stay well, remain vigilant and lifted. Remember, we are having, folks, a very hot period anticipated to last through to November. Hydrate yourselves, please. You will have no choice to bear with Grenlec because the demand on the grid will be tremendous. Prepare yourselves for outages because there's going to be a high demand. Air conditions are no longer luxury. They are now necessities. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Just type in my name, Edward or Eddie Frederick, subscribe, like, and share. And be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight up as I deliver them. To deliver, folks. I really had a wonderful time today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your support and your continued, viewership. All the very best. Have a productive week.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, biting opinion pieces, as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses EDDIE-FICATION to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through EDDIE-FICATION, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long.